You're watching Press TV. Time now for the news review section. Newly elected leader of Britain's ruling Conservative Party, Rishi Sunak, warning that his country has been facing profound economic challenges.
There is no doubt we face a profound economic challenge. We now need stability and unity.
In a brief live statement after winning his party's leadership race, Sunak also promised to bring unity at a time of economic crisis. 42-year-old Sunak is set to become the UK's third prime minister in less than 2 months. His predecessor, Liz Truss, resigned after a tumultuous 6 weeks into her job that included financial market chaos over her controversial tax slashing plans. But before her, Johnson quit following a torrent of resignations over his scandalous tenure. Okay, I'm inviting a couple of guests now to discuss this a bit more. So, Robert Carter, our correspondent, joining me from London. Also from London, I'm joined by Rodney Shakespeare, who's a professor of economics. Good to see you both, gentlemen. So, Rob, tell us what Rishi Sunak is inheriting. Looks like to be a total mess.
Well, I don't think anyone is in any denial that there are major challenges which he's going to face now that he's on the verge of taking over from Liz Truss. Basically, Rishi Sunak has this reputation as being economically sound, a safe pair of hands, someone who basically can take over from the much more bombastic and charismatic even predecessors. He's seen as a little bit boring, but basically he served in the role as Chancellor before, and he was essentially proven right during the last campaign for leadership of the Conservative Party when he took a different position to Liz Truss. Liz Truss, of course, was famous for essentially doing a massive U-turn on all of her promises during that campaign. So he is riding high, and I think that many in the Conservative Party are simply breathing a sigh of relief that he managed to secure a win rather than Boris Johnson, who is considered to be perhaps a bit more divisive, perhaps could bring back a lot of the old scandals which have deeply damaged the Conservative Party's reputation in the past year or so. And so obviously challenges do still remain. Sunak appears to be quite brutally honest in this initial stage, because I think he knows that he's going to introduce a lot of very unpopular policies which are going to put a lot of pressure on the British taxpayer. But he's made the argument early on that, look, it has to be done. Unfortunately, we're just going to have to put up and deal with it and soldier through it. But that doesn't mean that the Conservative Party are by any means on the mend in terms of their overall popularity. They're trailing in the polls compared to the senior opposition party, the Labour Party, and many questions surround whether not only does Sunak have what it takes to lead the UK through the many crises that it's dealing with and to get Britons through what's going to be a very tough and expensive winter period, but does he have what it takes to basically win the Conservatives the next election? And many of his critics, particularly Boris Johnson supporters, would have argued that no, he does not have the charisma or the character to rebuild the damaged reputation of the party and win that next election. So a lot of questions surround what policies he'll introduce, a lot of fear around potentially returning to austerity measures, but that has to wait and see. And obviously by the end of this week, towards the end of October, with the fiscal statement on the horizon, we'll perhaps have an opportunity to hear what the plan will be going forward. But certainly people are going to want answers very, very quickly, because winter is just a couple of months away. Okay.
Now let me ask Professor Shakespeare in London. Professor, Rishi Sunak said he wants to bring unity amid this disarray and chaos. There are a plethora of issues, as you know, that he's going to have to grapple with. So whether he has charisma or not, whether he is honest or dishonest, whatever, do you expect him to be the right person with enough capabilities and planning and management skills to be able to get the UK out of this mess?
Rishi Sunak is not the solution. He is the problem. The other candidates are the problem. The Conservative Party is the problem. The other parties are the problem. In all the countries of Europe, the political parties are the problem. America is the problem. The problem started 25 years ago when, breaking an agreement, they made the movement of NATO towards the east, thousands of kilometers. In 2014, there was the start of the slaughter of Russian-speaking Ukrainians. There was then the Minsk agreements, and Britain and America said, break the agreement, break the agreement. And then in January of this year, Zelensky said, we are going into Ukraine and we're going to have nuclear-tipped atomic missiles on our soil, pointing straight at Moscow. And as soon as that happened, you get the Russian invasion. You then get the sanctions. And unless you understand that, Sunak has no solution to what is an ever-increasing inflation, to which is going to be a disastrous winter, in which ordinary people are going to be, it's going to be a colossal cutback in their standard of living. There's going to be misery. Governments are going to continue to fall. By the way, in the UK, the political manifestations are really the manifestations of the inflation. I mean, it wasn't the cost of wallpaper which led to Boris Johnson falling. It was really about the rising inflation. That is what goes on. So you see, none of them have the answer until they understand that there has to be an end to the eastward expansion of NATO, and there has to be something which stops the killing of Russian-speaking Ukrainians. And until that happens, there's going to be either Russia winning in Ukraine or Ukraine winning in Ukraine, and that the sanctions will go on, the inflation will go on, the standard of living in Europe will decline, and the UK populace is going to have a very, very nasty time.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Robert Carter, our correspondent, and Professor Rodney Shakespeare, both of them in London. Thank you for watching this episode of the News Review on Press TV.